Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Roast Jeffrey, and subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. The top dog in the transfer portal is off the board. This is earth-shattering news. Maybe it's not earth-shattering, but it is huge news nonetheless. With Hunter Dickinson, the former Michigan center, transferring to the Kansas Jayhawks. I'm going to go over how important I think Hunter Dickinson could be for the Kansas Jayhawks next season, and whether I think Kansas is now officially a title contender in 2023-2024. Now, Hunter Dickinson, he has been teasing and messing around with so many people trying to figure out where he was going to go play college basketball this next season, and he was down to Kansas, Georgetown, Kentucky, Maryland, and Villanova, and those were a big list of schools, and a lot of those programs really could have used Hunter Dickinson, and Kansas needs a big man. I mean, KJ Adams, he is an undersized center, so I think that Hunter Dickinson's addition is huge, but you know good and well that some of those other programs really want him, especially Maryland or Georgetown, where both those programs were close to Hunter Dickinson's hometown of Alexandria, Virginia. Both programs could have used Hunter Dickinson, but they're not going to get him. Kentucky, you know, it was heartbreaking news for them not to be able to land Hunter Dickinson. I know that Kentucky fans thought they had a great chance to land him, but Oscar Tshiebwe's pending decision and more likely return probably limited Hunter Dickinson's ability of wanting to go there because of the fact you cannot have both centers playing next season on the floor together. I know some people said that you could because Hunter Dickinson could play on the outside and you have Oscar Tshiebwe on the inside, but I still don't think it really would have worked that well. And you also look at Villanova. They're a program that's had a great history recently with Jay Wright. Maybe they could have used him, but none of those programs are going to get him. And the Kansas Jayhawks got the big welcome news today that they're going to be having Hunter Dickinson on their basketball team next season. And how much will Hunter Dickinson bring to the program? He's a 7'1", 260-pound center, and he's a guy that averaged 18.5 points per game, 9 rebounds, and 1.5 assists for the Michigan Wolverines this past season. And yes, Michigan did not make the NCAA tournament, but it was not Hunter Dickinson's fault. He had a fantastic season this past year for Michigan, and he's a guy that I think has still NBA pro potential because he can shoot the three. That is an underrated part of his game. He's improved on shooting from the outside over his time at Michigan. When he first got to college, he could not shoot the basketball, but now he can. He can step out and shoot threes. So people are wondering, if Hunter Dickinson's 7'1" and he can shoot threes, why is he not in the NBA? Well, he is kind of slow-footed. He doesn't have that quick speed to be able to hang with some of the best centers in the NBA, which is why I still think he's in college basketball, but that by no means that Hunter Dickinson is too slow to be able to handle college bigs. I think he'll definitely be able to handle college bigs in the Big 12 next season, and I think he could play next to KJ Adams because KJ Adams is more of a power forward than a center. He's undersized, and I feel like KJ Adams and Hunter Dickinson could pair together in the front court for Kansas next season, make a deadly duo in the front court where nobody's going to be able to stop him in the Big 12. We'll have to see if KJ Adams and Hunter Dickinson do play together or if Bill Self will bring KJ Adams off the bench, but I don't think that will be the case. I do feel like KJ Adams will start, especially if Kevin McCullough does stay in the NBA draft, but that's a whole nother matter. He's still testing the NBA draft, but Hunter Dickinson, this is a huge addition for the Kansas Jayhawks because he was the best available player in the transfer portal, and I know rankings don't matter. On the court performance does, but Hunter Dickinson is the best player in the transfer portal because he's a guy that could go to the NBA, but he is staying in college basketball. And I know that he's making a lot of NIL money, which is why he is still in college basketball as well. It makes it a lot easier for these guys to want to stay in college basketball when they could go to the NBA and maybe not even get a guaranteed contract, and that's why they're probably a little skeptical of wanting to go. That's why Hunter Dickinson has not gone to the NBA yet, because he knows he'll probably make just as much, if not more, in college basketball. In Kansas, they have a great NIL operation. You've got Bill Self, a Hall of Fame coach. Everything works out for Hunter Dickinson. They've needed a center as well, and I think all of that will help. Kansas potentially have a roster that can compete in the Big 12, potentially win the Big 12 title, and maybe even be a national title contender. And how could they not? Because you look at what Hall of Fame coach Bill Self has brought in. Elmarco Jackson, he's a 5-star recruit, and they also have Chris Johnson, Marcus Adams Jr., and Jamar McDowell, a 4-man freshman class that has a lot of talent. Kevin McCullough, yes, he is testing the NBA draft waters, but if he returns, You could have a potential starting lineup of DeJuan Harris, Nick Timberlake, the Towson transfer, Kevin McCullough at the 3 if he does come back from testing the NBA draft waters, KJ Adams at the 4, and Hunter Dickinson at the 5. You cannot beat that starting lineup. That is one of the best starting lineups in college basketball. And yes, Nick Timberlake, he's the guy transferring from Towson, another transfer that Kansas has brought in, and he's a guy that most people thought would be the biggest transfer portal addition Bill Self brought in. And as is, that made Kansas a very dangerous team for next year. But with Hunter Dickinson, that is the icing on the cake. That makes Kansas a bona fide national title contender for sure. But Nick Timberlake, he's a 6'4", 200-pound guard. And yes, he's coming up from Towson, so it's a smaller school. You don't know how those players are going to transfer up to the big leagues. But he averaged 18 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 2.5 assists at Towson. And shot 42% from 3. I think he will be fine. He's also an experienced player as well. He's been in college basketball for many years, just like Hunter Dickinson. So I think that Nick Timberlake will be able to make that adjustment just fine. And Arterio Morris, the former Texas guard that was a McDonald's All-American, 5-star recruit. He's transferring to Kansas. He only averaged 5 points per game for Texas this past season. He was in a deep guard rotation at Texas, and I feel like Arterio Morris can come in and be that 6th man off the bench for Kansas next season, but we'll have to see. He definitely has a lot of talent, but this just raises the bar for the Kansas Jayhawks next year because you have a great starting 5, potentially with Hunter Dickinson at center, with DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams, Kevin McCullough, and Nick Timberlake, and also Arterio Morris off the bench, and that 4-man freshman class that has a lot of talent. Looking at Kansas's roster, this is probably the most talented roster now in college basketball for next season. Kansas is now a legit national title contender and probably the favorite to win the Big 12 next season. Hunter Dickinson was that missing piece. They had a fantastic roster as is, and they're only wondering what Kevin McCullough is going to do, but he more likely could return, but we'll have to see. But Jalen Wilson and Grady Dick being gone, that hurts, but the Kansas Jayhawks this next season will have much more balance and depth to the roster and have a lot more guys contributing at a high level than they had this past season. Sometimes it felt like Jalen Wilson too much was having to be the guy, or Grady Dick would have to step up as well, and no one else was really carrying that scoring load with them. But this season, you could have potentially 5 or 6 guys scoring at a high level. If Arterio Morris could step up from what he did at Texas past season, he could be a huge option. Nick Timberlake, I feel like, is going to be an 11 to 12 points per game scorer for Kansas. If Kevin McCullough returns, he's going to be a guy that averages around 10 points per game. Same thing with KJ Adams. And if Hunter Dickinson can come over and continue to average around 17, 18 points per game like he did at Michigan, have those 9 boards a game, and shoot the basketball at over 40% from 3 in the Big 12, then Hunter Dickinson and the Kansas Jayhawks will be a nightmare next season in the Big 12. Nobody's going to be able to stop the front court, and DeJuan Harris at point guard giving the basketball to Hunter Dickinson at a high level off those pick and pops, that is going to be dangerous. But Hunter Dickinson, he is the best player in the transfer portal. It is heartbreaking news for all these teams that missed out on, especially Kentucky. Kentucky fans are probably upset, but for Kentucky fans, if you get Oscar Tshiebwe back, you will be fine. But for the Kansas Jayhawks, they really needed Hunter Dickinson to be a national title contender. I thought they were a fringe title contender before this news, but now that they got Hunter Dickinson, they are definitely a national title contender. A great job by Bill Self in this offseason, bringing in talent in the high school ranks in the transfer portal. And with Hunter Dickinson's addition, I feel like the Kansas Jayhawks are the most talented team in college basketball for next season. There's probably a few other teams you can make the argument are more talented, but looking up and down Kansas' roster, they have the most depth, and they have a lot of talent on next year's team. And if Hunter Dickinson plays at a high level next year, and he can draw all those bigs away from the basket, shooting the 3, and he's able to rebound at a high level and have all those other players that are really talented around him, Kansas is going to be a dangerous team for next season. They're going to be a fun team to watch, and Hunter Dickinson is definitely going to make a lot of Kansas fans happy being in a Jayhawk uniform next year. And I feel like Hunter Dickinson's addition definitely raises the ceiling and floor for Kansas next year, and the sky's the limit, and they'd have a great chance to win another national title next year. Don't want to get ahead of yourself, but Hunter Dickinson's addition is fantastic news for the Kansas Jayhawks nonetheless, and it's going to be very exciting to see how good Kansas can be in 2023-2024. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below what you think about Hunter Dickinson transferring from Michigan to Kansas, and whether you think the Kansas Jayhawks are now a national title contender, and how good of a job you think that Bill Self's done in the transfer portal and in high school recruiting for the Jayhawks this offseason. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.